Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 597. I had the white pieces here and I kicked off with e4. And my opponent played d6, which can introduce a couple different ideas. After d4 and knight f6, immediately hitting this pawn. Let's see, I went knight c3 defending it. If he follows up with g6, then this is the Pirc defense, but he can follow up with e5 and go into a Philidor with just a slightly different move order. Interesting way to play it. Let's see, he went with g6, so we got the Pirc, and now here I should probably play f4. I think I like that position better against the Pirc. Yeah, the chess engine likes f4 too. Knight f3 is the classical way of playing, and it's also good for white. So he goes bishop g7, and I keep some kind of edge out of the opening. Bishop e2, goes bishop g4. This is a rare move, and this bishop isn't going to stay here, so its only purpose is really to trade itself for that knight. I don't have to be in a hurry to play h3, but that does kind of force the decision there. I castled first, and he castled. And I guess I could have just continued to ignore the bishop and played bishop to e3. That seems to be the top choice. But the second choice here, h3, is not bad either. The reason that kind of forces the exchange is that the bishop, if it goes back here, it gets trapped. And if it goes back here, it's just wasted some time. And white's gained control of the g4 square, which is useful because you can now put a bishop on e3 without worrying about a knight coming there. So he takes. And we get this position. He goes c6 here. Knight c6 is a little more common in this position. And after a few more moves, we're pretty much out of the opening book. Let's see, I go bishop to e3. Reasonable move. And he goes queen to c7. Knight bd7 would be a way to stay in the book. But you see that it's all about the same. So it's one of those openings where, even though we've reached a pretty typical kind of position, the engine prefers white a lot. Well, I think black gave away the dark square, his light squared bishop without getting any kind of compensation for it. So maybe there's the advantage of the bishop pair that white has, in addition to the usual space advantage. So comfortable position for white. But well, it's not a position I'm all that familiar with, so it can cause trouble. Anyway, I continue with queen d2, just lifting the queen up and preparing, if necessary, or if I feel like it, to put a bishop there on h6 and trade off his bishop. He immediately moves the rook out of the way, which indicates if I place a bishop here, he's going to drop his bishop back to h8 and just keep it on that long diagonal. So there didn't seem to be any hurry to do that. And I started routing my knight around over to the king side. Let's see, he finishes his development, knight bd2. I go c3. Now the engine really prefers c4 here, just maintaining that big space advantage and maybe pushing on with d5 later. And actually, because after c3 he played e5, at this point I was wishing that I had played c4, because at this point then I would have the option of d5, whereas here d5 doesn't seem so attractive. It's playable, it looks like d5, c takes d5, yeah, but with some advantage to black. Anyway, so with that one little mistake there, c4 and c3 instead of c4, it seems like black has managed to equalize in this opening. And now I play a move, the engine doesn't like this. Basically, well, the problem is I needed to do something about the e-pawn here. This e-pawn is really just hanging at this point. So let's back up and see what's a good move here. Knight g3. Okay, continuing the knight's journey. The knight started over here on c3, and I was routing it over to the king side. Just finish bringing it over to the king side and make sure that pawn is securely defended. The problem is that he can take here, he can take the d-pawn with tempo, and then that unveils the attack from the rook and the knight. So he's got two pieces on that pawn effectively, and I have to be willing to deal with that. So this move g4 is just not appropriate in the circumstances. It just loses a pawn here. Although he doesn't take it, so it's kind of funny. He takes here, and let's see, I decide to take back with the knight. Looks like all those moves could have been played. And he goes in with knight e5. He could already have grabbed the pawn right here, but he goes in with knight e5, which comes with the threat of hitting the bishop here, which I don't especially want him to take. So I drop the bishop back, and then he goes to c4, hitting the queen and the bishop. So he's getting my other bishop. Pretty annoying. Let's see. The engine prefers queen c2, but we're going to end up in the same kind of position because he's going to take, and then I'm going to take back with the queen. And once again, he is now able to take here. The problem this time is that after I take back with the bishop, he can push his d-pawn forward, and my bishop will be pinned there. I don't have any moves there with check or anything to escape that pin. So he can win that pawn there, and when I take with the bishop, he can win a piece back. So so I'm just down a pawn at this point, although he didn't play that. He played a6, and I went king h1 to get off that diagonal, and he went c5, kicking my knight. I dropped the knight back to e2, and yeah, I think he can probably still take there. It's getting less attractive, but d5 is a move here. I think I mentioned this during the game. After d5, I'd probably have to defend with f3, and he could exchange and give me an isolated pawn there that he could further attack. So that would be good. Anyway, he played rook e6, lifting up his rooks, preparing to double on the e-file. And here's my chance to play knight f4. That would really activate the knight. I somehow forgot about the knight and brought the rook in. Well, bringing the rook here to the d-file makes sense too. This is not an awful move, but he gives me one more chance to play. Okay, now he's attacking this pawn, and I have to defend it. And he comes in with knight to d7. So yeah, here's another chance for me to play knight f4, and with my rook already on the d-file, it makes a lot of sense because the knight's got a great square to go to on a great square on d5 there. Anyway, I unpinned this pawn by moving my queen out of the way. He brings his knight to e5. Once again, knight f4 would be a good move, and a much better move than what I played here. b3 keeps his knight out of the c4 square, but actually with knight f4, the queen would be defending the b pawn, so I wouldn't have to be afraid of knight c4, and also his rook would be under attack, so I wouldn't have to, he wouldn't be playing knight c4 anyway. He'd have to deal with that rook attack first. So right here, knight f4 is a good move. And what did I play instead? I played b3, yeah, to keep his knight out of c4. So just bad play from me. And now he starts activating his queen. Let's see, I played rook d2. Once again, knight f4 would have been good. He moves his queen over to b5. I kick it with c4. Drops, so he brings the queen forward to b4, kicking my rook, and I bring my rook over to defend and double. So I am threatening this pawn at this point, although there's stuff going on here. He tries bishop to h6, hitting my rook. So I push the pawn forward, and then he reroutes his knight to c6, and the knight is threatening to come to this square. This is kind of annoying. But right here, I should have, well, I could take the pawn. Yeah, that's one of the moves. Rook takes d6 is one of the moves. The engine also likes g5, which I thought about that, shutting his bishop down on this diagonal. But the bishop is going to come to this diagonal, and that's a good diagonal for the bishop anyway, so I didn't want to hurry that. But rook takes d6. I had just kind of forgotten about my pressure on the d-pawn at this point. This is the time to cash in. And notice that this pawn is defended by my bishop. So everything is pretty well set up, in spite of a few inaccuracies. You know, my opponent made some inaccuracies too, and now would be the time for me to show some skill or something and take that pawn. Anyway, or maybe just general awareness. I played queen f3, which is kind of annoying here. I've put the queen in the way of the bishop, so now when he takes this, I have to trade the queen for the two rooks. And that's actually how I lose the game. I failed to recognize that. So he plays bishop to g7. I realize here I can take that pawn, but he can take this pawn. And I didn't realize that my knight was hanging. So I'm really forced. I still have an okay position here, but I'm really forced to take the rooks off here. Give up my queen for the two rooks. And if I had played like this, you know, my rooks are coordinated here, and I control the d file pretty well, although I don't control the d8 square. This knight is kind of annoying in the way, but I have a bishop poised to take it off. So overall, I mean, he's got a good bishop here, but this diagonal that his bishop is looking out is mostly empty at this point. So so it looks like overall I'm better here, even though the material is even. So that's the way to play it. Okay. So instead of that, I dropped my queen back, thinking that this knight was protected, but it's not. He just took it. And I'm just losing from here on out. I play on more or less out of inertia, but there's nothing good happening here. I try this rook d8 trick, pin this rook so that I can take this rook, but he just unpins with bishop f8. So yeah, he really didn't make any mistakes on this part once he got that piece up. Of course, makes it easier when you're a piece up. And now he comes in with check and starts chasing my king around. Oh, he didn't play that way. He played with the queen. Also good. And then he brings the rook in. And it's probably going to be mate in a little while. Okay, my move here is either putting the queen on g2 or giving it up for the rook. Either way, I'm down massive amounts of material, so I resigned. Anyway, interesting game, and I guess I should be a little more alert next time I play. See you guys later. Bye.